morning. Praise is to work mind our faith. Here is the thought comes from to stay understood before heaven spoke in a something forget your death is long strong inwardly treat you may thoughts you may wonder why deeply it's fulfilled proof that is Jesus is the power he confronted warn mind are not neutral they are God is allowed to grow there will eventually bear fruit. If you've ever asked why peace feels so fragile, why joy slips through your fingers, or why spiritual growth feels stalled despite sincere faith, the answer may not be in what you're doing, but in what you're allowing your mind to dwell on. And when Jesus spoke about keeping control over your thoughts, he wasn't offering a suggestion, he was offering a lifeline. When Jesus addressed the inner world of a person, he did so with a seriousness that unsettled religious minds. The Pharisees focused on visible obedience, public holiness, outward discipline. But Jesus went deeper. He spoke to the place no monitor, no law could restrain the thoughts and intentions of the heart. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus shattered the illusion that righteousness begins with behavior. He said, "You have heard that it was said, but I tell you." And each time, he moved the conversation inward. Anger before murder, lust before adultery, fear before compromise, pride before downfall. Jesus was revealing a spiritual law many overlook. What dominates your thoughts eventually directs your life. This is where many believers grow confused. They pray for change, but keep feeding the same mental patterns. They ask God for peace while allowing their minds to rehearse worry. They desire intimacy with God, but permit distraction, bitterness, and self-condemnation to live rent-free in their inner world. And slowly, silently, spiritual sensitivity dulls. Jesus never taught that thoughts are harmless. He taught that they are seeds. Some come from pain, some from temptation, some from spiritual opposition, some even masquerade as logic or realism. But Jesus made it clear, just because a thought enters your mind does not mean it deserves authority over your heart. This is why Scripture repeatedly calls us to vigilance, to watch, to guard, to take every thought captive. Because if you don't decide what occupies your mind, something else will decide for you. There are seasons when God feels quiet, distant, or silent. And during those times, your thought life becomes even more vulnerable. Doubt sounds reasonable. Fear feels justified. Old wounds start speaking again. Many people mistake God's silence as absence, when in reality, it is often an invitation to deeper trust and inner realignment. That's why resources that help believers navigate these silent seasons matter deeply. The devotional, When God is Silent, linked in the pinned comment, was created for moments like this, when your prayers feel unanswered, your thoughts feel heavy, and your faith needs grounding rather than hype. It's designed to help you hear God beneath the noise of your own mind and relearn how to rest in Him even when clarity feels far away. Jesus' words about the mind were not meant to burden you, they were meant to free you. He wasn't calling you to suppress thoughts, but to discern them, not to fear your mind, but to steward it. because the enemy does not need to destroy your faith outright. He only needs to distract your thoughts long enough for you to forget who God is and who you are in Him. What Jesus is about to reveal through His teaching is this: spiritual authority begins in the unseen. And when you learn to keep watch over your thoughts, you begin to walk in a freedom many believers never experience. Not because God withheld it, but because they never learned how to guard what He entrusted to them. There is a moment in the Gospels that often goes unnoticed because it doesn't come with thunder, miracles, or crowds shouting praise. It happens quietly in the unseen, where battles are most intense. Jesus is alone in the wilderness. No disciples, no affirmations, no visible evidence of God's favor. Only hunger, silence, and pressure. 40 days without food, 40 days without comfort, 40 days with nothing to distract the mind from its own thoughts. And it is there, not in the temple, not before a crowd, that the enemy speaks. Notice how the temptation begins, not with violence, not with force, but with a thought disguised as logic. If you are the Son of God, the enemy does not attack Jesus' power first. He attacks His identity. He introduces a thought designed to provoke doubt, to create internal tension, to invite Jesus to prove something rather than trust something. And this is how temptation often works. It doesn't sound evil. It sounds reasonable. It sounds like a question worth entertaining. Jesus is hungry. The thought suggests a solution. Turn stones into bread. Use your ability. Fix the discomfort. End the suffering. But beneath the suggestion is a deeper temptation. To act independently of the Father's will. To allow physical need to override spiritual trust. Jesus does not argue emotionally. He does not entertain the thought. He does not reason with it. He responds with truth. It is written. This is not accidental. Jesus shows us that thoughts gain power when they are debated, but they lose power when they are confronted with truth. He doesn't say, I feel like. He doesn't say, in my opinion. He anchors his mind in what God has already spoken. Again, the enemy comes, this time with scripture twisted just enough to sound spiritual. Throw yourself down. God will protect you. A religious thought, a spiritual sounding suggestion, but still a test, still an attempt to manipulate God rather than trust Him. And again, Jesus refuses to let the thought linger. It is also written. Then comes the third assault, a vision, a shortcut, authority without suffering, influence without obedience, glory without the cross. All it would cost is one moment of misplaced allegiance, one decision rooted in the wrong thought. And Jesus ends it with authority. Away from me. This is not just a command to the enemy, it is a declaration of mental and spiritual boundaries. Some thoughts do not deserve conversation. Some suggestions require immediate dismissal. Some inner voices must be told to leave. This moment reveals something crucial. Jesus did not defeat temptation by sheer willpower. He defeated it by guarding his mind with truth, identity, and submission to the Father. Now consider another moment, much closer to home for many believers. Peter, the disciple who loved Jesus fiercely, speaks up with confidence and passion. Jesus has just revealed that suffering, rejection, and death await him. Peter, disturbed by the idea, pulls Jesus aside and rebukes him. His intention sounds loving, protective, loyal. Never, Lord, this shall never happen to you. But Jesus responds with words that shock. Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. Jesus is not calling Peter the enemy. He is identifying the source of the thought influencing Peter. A thought rooted in fear, comfort, and avoidance of pain, not in God's redemptive plan. This moment is terrifying and illuminating. Peter loved Jesus. He followed him. He believed in him. And yet, in that moment, he allowed a thought contrary to God's will to take shape in his mind and spill out through his words. Jesus shows us something sobering. Sincerity does not protect you from wrong thoughts. Love for God does not automatically mean your thinking aligns with His purposes. This is why Jesus emphasized vigilance, awareness, discernment. Left unchecked, even well-meaning thoughts can oppose God's work in your life. Then there is Judas. Long before betrayal became action, Scripture tells us something chilling. The idea entered his heart, not the act. The idea, a thought, a seed, quiet, repeated, unchallenged. Disappointment grew. Expectations went unmet, offense festered, and instead of confronting those thoughts in the presence of Jesus, Judas allowed them to mature in secrecy. The tragedy of Judas is not just that he betrayed Jesus, it's that he never brought his inner struggle into the light. He walked with truth while entertaining lies in his mind. Contrast that with another figure, Mary. When the angel speaks to her, her life is instantly disrupted. Fear would have been natural, confusion justified, questions unavoidable. But Scripture says she pondered these things in